Someone's gotta do it. So, The Wheel of Time on Prime Season 3 is coming out sometime in the future, and I think it's time I finally tackle one of the biggest questions about the series. Something that really should be answered for people new to the series. Is The Wheel of Time sexist? And if it isn't sexist, is it still problematic due to the primary magic system being based around a gender binary? It's complicated. Quick disclaimer. I'm a fan, obviously. I wouldn't be making this video if I wasn't. But I do have my own complaints, and I'd be lying if I said I didn't understand the gripes others have in regards to how the series treats gender. I'm also non-binary myself, and I've got my own take on how the magic system toys with the ideas of gender, but I'm still not going to pull any punches if I feel it's necessary. Also, minor spoiler warning for the entire series. Don't worry though, I won't spoil anything that's too important. First, I'd like to acknowledge something that's kind of outside of the world building, and that's personality. I've seen this complaint a few times specifically outside the fandom, and that's the way most of the women in the series are written. They're all obnoxious, condescending, bitter, etc. With some exceptions. I'm not going to comment on this too much, mainly because I think it's super subjective. I've seen a number of people outside the fandom who are seriously offended by this, and have made jokes about how bad it is. I've also seen those who claim the series' portrayal of women is great. I've made this point before, but people deep in the fandom tend to forget just how off-putting some things, especially at the beginning of the series, can be. Nynaeve in particular is polarizing, even within the fandom. Some people love her and think she's understandable, and others think she's, well, all of those things I mentioned before. My personal take is that she starts out very obnoxious and condescending, and her character arc is about learning to, well, stop. And all I'm going to say here is, let people come to their own conclusions, and don't try to correct any of their interpretations. Like I said, this is an incredibly subjective topic, but it isn't the only one. Something I hope most people in the fandom would understand is that nuance is a thing. You can love a series despite it having aspects that seriously bother you. And believe me, even the most fervent Wheel of Time fans will get that. But it isn't the only factor here. Let's get to the second point. The gender essentialist magic system. Most importantly, that I agree with the primary complaints regarding the series, but only to a point. I agree that basing the magic system fundamentals on the gender binary with certain aspects of the magic being different for men compared to women has not aged well. The One Power, the primary magic system in the series, is divided into Saidin, which can only be used by men, and Saidar, which can only be used by women. There are 5 elements of the One Power which can be used by both, but men tend to be stronger than women on average in the One Power. Men also tend to be better with fire and earth, whereas women tend to be stronger in water and air, while both use spirit equally. Channeling Saidin for men is always described as similar to controlling a torrent of fire and ice, and channeling Saidar for women is always described like guiding a stream. Not a great look. But it's not just about the magic system, it's about the... may the Creator of Mercy... politics. The Wheel of Time world, from the Westlands, or Randland if you prefer, to Shara to Shanshan is under a matriarchy. Men aren't exactly hated by all, but positions of power in the series are usually held by women, queens, empresses, and even councils that are all women. Though there is an in-universe reason for this. Magic used to be used equally by both men and women, but thousands of years ago, a plan to imprison an evil god came with some unforeseen consequences. Mainly the male half being tainted with his power, which causes men who channel to go insane. This led to almost all male channelers being hunted down so they don't become living weapons of mass destruction, which over time led to women becoming the dominant political power. And the divide between the two is a constant talking point for the characters. Each group has their own stereotypes of the other, their own insults of the other, and it's everywhere in this world. But that is all only surface level. The divide between men and women comes with its own consequences. The hunting of male channelers over many generations ends up causing an imbalance in the magic, and female channelers, while they still exist, are weaker and fewer in number. On top of this idea is the fact that men and women are stronger when they channel together. So despite the gender essentialist ideas, it is at least saying that we are better off when men and women work together equally. Bringing them back on equal footing and working together are major goals of the characters later in the series, and we see societal change and it's presented as a good thing. They used to work together in the distant past, and the only reason they stopped is because of the antagonist tainting the male half. Furthermore, despite assigning certain powers being stronger in one gender, there is at least nuance to that idea. I mentioned before that men are usually stronger in fire and earth, as well as usually being stronger overall, while women are usually stronger in water and air. The key is that these are trends, not absolute. Some of the most powerful channelers in the books are women, and some of the weakest are men. This goes for the 5 elements as well. There's a point in one of the later books where one of the main characters meets a man who is especially strong in air. Similar to how certain traits in our world are considered more stereotypically feminine or masculine, but stereotypes are never absolute, especially on an individual level. And my being non-binary and trans, yes, those two things can go together. There is one other character I do need to mention. I won't name names because, again, spoiler light, but there is a character, a man, whose soul is put into the body of a woman. In addition to being more explorative in regards to sexuality, this character still channels Sidene, despite being in the body of a woman. This implying that the soul is what determines the gender of the channeler. I don't have too much to say about this other than I like this and I appreciate this since it demonstrates that gender identity is a thing in this world and that it's a separate thing from biological sex. Now this is only seen in a character whose soul was put in another body by the Dark One, but since reincarnation exists in this world, I'd love to see if it's possible with anyone else, but that's just speculation. What am I getting at with this video? While it's true the Wheel of Time magic system and world are built on a gender binary, and some parts of it are absolute, namely certain differences between men and women, it isn't to be condescending to one or the other, and even some of these differences are not absolute. They vary from person to person. Much like many traits society in our world might consider masculine or feminine vary in people in our world. So yes, the Wheel of Time is built on a gender binary, but it's not an idea without nuance. Thanks so much for watching, I am Kieran Mythos, and I'll see you all next time!